Marty Cohn, and this is BCTV's Meet the Candidates, a series that affords you an opportunity to hear from the folks running for elected office. Today, our guest is Brad Peacock, an independent candidate for U.S. Senate. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, so I gotta tell you, you're an independent candidate running for U.S. Senate. That means you're running against Bernie Sanders. Why are you running against Bernie Sanders?
Well, I feel that Bernie's attention is elsewhere and has been for quite some time now. I believe that he hasn't really stopped running for president. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I believe that the people of Vermont deserve a full-time senator. I think Senator Leahy and Congressman Welch have been doing a great job keeping up. But, you know, it's three people in Congress for Vermont. So I think it's time for someone to be really focused on the state.
I hear you. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you come to step up to the plate the way that you are?
So, the election of 2016, I think, shook many people to their core. That included me, waking up the next day and realizing that a lot of our world was going to be different, hoping maybe that it wouldn't be, but quickly realizing that it was. And so I just began to see the erosion of decency and trust in our country and with our elected officials, and it really stirred something in me. That and the fear of losing rights. I'm married to a man. My husband and I woke up and both tears in our eyes, not knowing whether, our marriage would be nullified or not. And now with the Supreme Court hearings with Brett Kavanaugh, everything's back up in the air. I think people don't realize that, gay marriage was under court order, is under court order, and can be overturned. So, that's a pretty big thing in my life. And it's just, what we have seen coming from Washington is just not leadership, and it's not focused on the needs of the people, and certainly not the needs of most Vermonters.
So this passion stirred after the November elections. You, in terms of with your partner, was that something that you were actively involved politically, or is this your first toe in the political world?
This is my first go in the political arena.
Fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you decided that it needed to change, and you were going to go out and do something.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this, a celebrity billionaire speak to the working class, and it bothered me because obviously he's not working class. And so I thought, wait a minute, there's actually not many working class people in Congress, and maybe we need a little bit more representation to get back to some level of normalcy. So yeah.
So in terms of your working class roots, how long have you been living in Vermont?
So I was born and raised here.
Oh, that's a good thing. Check.
Yeah. Born and raised, so lived here most of my entire life. Had a brief stint in the Air Force, so I was out of state for that. And then after graduating college at UVM, went to Virginia for about a year or so, but quickly realized that Vermont was the only place for me. So, yeah.
And when did you jump into the campaign?
January of this year.
So you've been campaigning since January.
Yes.
So you're getting out and about and meeting different people?
Yeah, as much as I can. I mean, I'm a working class guy. I'm a farmer. I've been farming for my entire adult life. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult, especially this time of year, getting out and campaigning. But what I, explain to people is this is a part of why I'm running. I am working class. I need to, I basically live paycheck to paycheck. I need all that money to survive. And so I get out as much as I can. So full-time job, full-time campaign.
So one of the things, so I went on your website, and it's a very good website and something that I recommend people to go on. You talk about certain issues, and a lot of the issues are, national issues,
Right.
Versus here in Vermont. And again, is there a reason that you listed these issues? Do you see what do you see as the role of a U.S. Senator? Is it dealing with these issues, or are there issues more local that you think we should be having more attention?
So as the campaign has progressed, I think the role of a U.S. Senator is definitely national issues. I mean, it's the country as a whole, your U.S. Senator. However, looking into it, what's good for Vermont is good for the rest of the country. Mm-hmm. So I've really been delving into the problems that we're facing here, and will be listing my ideas and strategy moving forward for Vermont issues. And so I'm thoroughly going to be focused on Vermont with an ear to the rest of the country as well. But, like I said, what's good for Vermont is good for the rest of the country. We're a very rural state, and every state has rural places. So
do you see, when you're looking at the issues, and I want to get into some of these issues, do you think that the issues are not being adequately addressed by Bernie? That you think that there's a different way to look at these issues? I'm trying to figure out how you came up with this list.
I think on national issues,
right.
He's pretty good. I mean, he's out there, I think, in my opinion, stumping for president again. So, he has this national platform that he is focused on. Well, I've listed my stances on these issues because people want to know as a U.S. Senator. However, I believe it's time to rein it in and focus on Vermont.
Okay, so just as way of example, and with the understanding that I may have shifted pages here, but I took your website and I printed out some pages. So here are some issues. Just tell me what you think.
Great.
Term limits and lobbying ban. I strongly believe in term limits for all members of Congress.
Yes.
It's right at the top. All right.
Absolutely. It's what can I do now to make a difference? So that is implementing self-imposed term limits. So 2 terms. I'm not even sure I'd want to, do 2 terms if elected, but I'll let you know in 5 years.
Right. Okay. Then number 2, very important issue: campaign finance reform. I mean, to run a campaign costs a lot of money. I mean, but yet we must work to overturn the disastrous Citizens United decision.
Right. So, yes, you need money to run a campaign. However, in a state like in Vermont, mm-hmm. word of mouth matters. Ah, okay. And, I've lived there the majority of my life, and I understand that. So what I've done is I've set up a specific pledge for the candidates to sign. So $225,000 cap, which is, the median income of Vermont is a little over $50,000 a year. So you're talking 4.5 years of someone's salary in Vermont going into one campaign.
Right.
I think that's plenty. And it's time to lead by example. So I've sent this pledge out to other candidates and have heard nothing. Nothing from Senator Sanders, who has championed this cause vigorously on the campaign trail. Not one word from him, which to me is a little frustrating and a little telling. If you're going to talk about it and someone comes up with a plan, then in my eye, at least acknowledge it. You can say, no, that's crazy, that's too little money, but the pledge was also the incumbent could only raise 85% of that, which is about $191,000 and change.
Right.
Because the power of incumbency is so it's a mountain to climb
Right.
for anybody that's trying to overcome it.
Right.
So I just believe that's fair.
And how are you doing fundraising? What are you doing? I mean, regardless, I believe word of mouth, great.
Right.
But there's still some money that you need to
Sure,
come up with.
absolutely. You rely on a lot of friends doing in-kind donations for services rendered, but also, being a presence online, having the website helps, Facebook, a little advertising there, and just getting out and meeting people and having them see, that there is a choice.
Another important issue, LGBTQ rights. There's a lot of move in this country. I'm not even sure anymore after November 2016 where things stand. I thought we had made a lot of progress, but do you see a danger in some of the rights that have been granted already, or there's more that we can do?
We hear a lot more about religious freedom, which, is a very nuanced subject. But the right seems to be using it for discrimination. So discrimination against gay people, especially. There's that. There's the trans ban that was put into place by President Trump. This is
Right.
in the military.
Right.
And so this is another reason why I, got into the fray of politics, because, I was released under Don't Ask, Don't Tell for being gay. And when I heard about the trans ban, it really shook me to my core, because I know how detrimental that was to me, the shame that was placed upon me, and the months of suicidal thoughts that I had because of that and coming out. And I just couldn't sit idly by anymore. I knew lives are at stake.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very important to me, standing up and saying, if you raise your right hand, it doesn't matter who you are, who you love, what color your skin is, what have you. You can serve the country.
I hear what you're saying. Shifting another one, and this is remarkable that we're still talking about this, climate change.
Right. So as a farmer, I've been on the front lines of climate change, and I've seen a significant change over the past decade here in Vermont, and it's very sad to see. If it's from just the crazy weather, you can't really predict it anymore. So we just have an increase in pests and diseases. And, we're an organic farm, so we practice, safe, no pesticides, no herbicides. It's getting harder and harder to do that. The tick population in Vermont has gone out of control. This is, climate change is one reason. It just keeps inching upward and upward in
Sure.
Vermont. So.
But the key there is the debate. So you're experiencing climate change. You're seeing it as a farmer.
Right.
I think there's numerous examples of people seeing this change. Yet those folks who we're sending to Washington, we're still debating whether or not there is climate change.
Whether we're debating that, I think it's pretty clear, and I think they know. I think they're getting paid, their campaigns are getting paid a lot of money from fossil fuel companies and polluters to pretend like there's no climate change. So, exposing that and getting money out of politics, that's really important.
And that's really interesting. A lot of the issues, we're calling them out, but a lot of them are interrelated. It's not
right.
So for example, the next one, wages. We need a sustainable economy that works for all the working people of the country.
Right.
That's important in so many different areas.
Yeah.
So many different ways.
from an increase in the minimum wage to a restructuring of our welfare system, which, Democrats would probably go nuts that I said that, but it's true. I mean, I believe we need a graduated welfare system to get people into the workforce. So, in other words, you go in and, people get a 50-cent an hour raise, they lose all their benefits. Well, that 50 cents is not going to cover the benefits. So that is crazy. So people say, you know what, I'm not going to work. I need health care. I need to feed my kids.
Right.
So a graduated system makes a lot more sense to me. Now, if people were making a livable wage and we got corporations to actually pay that, then we probably wouldn't need welfare so much. Now, small businesses in this state, that's another thing. These large tax breaks that we gave to multi-billion-dollar corporations that didn't need it, I think it would have been best served to give tax breaks to small businesses who are the backbone of our economy in order for them to cushion if we did raise that minimum wage to $15, $16 an hour.
Another one that I definitely can relate to, student loan debt and college tuition. I see that as really two different things. I mean, there's college tuition and what we can do about the rising costs, but for kids to come out after 4 years having this tremendous debt, what do you think we could do about that? Personally, I think we need to be focusing on community colleges. I mean, universities are becoming way too expensive. I have over almost $60,000 in college debt. I come from a working class family, 4 kids. I was the first one to graduate college. My parents didn't have any money to kick in. I thought that I would have the GI Bill in order to put myself through school. That didn't work out so well. So I had to pay, for everything, and that is quite the burden to be placed on students. So going back to community colleges are very, very affordable, especially in Vermont, through Pell Grants, different grants, different scholarships. It's almost zero tuition. So refocusing on community colleges and then hopefully getting universities to lower their tuition a little bit, or coming up with a new plan on how to pay for it, is really important. But the student loan debt unto itself, we need a fixed interest rate on student loans, and that's it. We can't be making money off of people that want to further their education. I mean, that's criminal, and I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. And so it's extremely important that we get costs down, that we get more money in the pockets of students after they graduate, so they can buy their own home or buy a piece of land or start a business. Healthcare. This issue is, again, I'm just calling off these. There's no rank order to them, but healthcare. You believe that this is a human right. Correct. How do you think the two-part question? How do you think the debate is going now, and what impact do you think a senator from Vermont can have in this? I think quite a large impact. I mean, you see Bernie Sanders, and this is his issue, and it's great. He's started a good trend. However, getting to universal health care is going to take years. I hate to say it. It's not something that I hope happens, but looking at facts, 16 senators have signed on to a universal health care bill. Well, you need 60 in order for a bill to pass. Even Democrats haven't signed on to this. So how are we going to get Republicans to sign on? Plus, you need a president that is willing to do it. So for me, it's what can we do now? And I believe that we can raise, the age. I believe that all kids should have health care.
I believe we can lower the age of Medicare to 55. And I also believe that we can restructure the way that we do prescription drugs. So, you know, the Veterans Administration is able to negotiate prescription drug prices. Well, the federal government should as well.
And as a matter of fact, the VA has a model. I mean, think about all the veterans that are being served by that system. It's working. Why can't we emulate that in other ways?
Right.
Definitely.
That's a great question.
Women's rights. Now,
Yes.
We need to end paid discrimination against women and pass the Paycheck Fairness Act that ensures all women are paid equally for their work. It's 2018. We're still having that on the list.
We're still having that conversation. I mean, hopefully with this influx of women into elected office and that are winning races all across the country, and this can be accelerated. I am for a woman's right to choose. You know, who am I to tell a woman what she can and cannot do with her body as a man? So, you know, having two sisters and a mother and growing up with many influential women in my life, it's imperative that there's equal status for everyone.
So again, two parts. One is on recognizing that everyone should get, you know, should be equal pay for equal work. On the social issues, you know, like abortion, we're witnessing with the confirmation hearings of Judge Kavanaugh, that right that we thought we didn't have to think about anymore back in 1972, where it's still here. As a senator, this is something that you're going to continue to be vigilant about maintaining that right to choose?
Absolutely. I mean, I would put forth legislation to ensure that that was put into place. Now, the court could strike that down. However, you know, if there was a legislative law, it would certainly help the cause.
Voting rights, again, another issue. We must ensure all Americans who are willing to participate in the democracy can. Voting is a right. Is this something that you see being eroded? What do you think needs to be done to ensure that those who can vote, vote?
So voter ID laws are discriminatory. There are people that can't get to a DMV. They're closing DMVs. You know, especially in minority communities that are targeted. They're closing polling places. So my idea is, you know, at 18, when you have the right to vote, you're just automatically signed up to vote. You have your birth certificate. The government should know when you turn 18, and you should be able to have that right to vote. Voter ID laws, very discriminatory. I don't really see a place for them. The amount of, you know, the people voting illegally in this country is, you know, hardly anything.
Right.
So that's just.
So, but there's another aspect of in terms. So everyone has the right to vote, and we remove the barriers to voting. Great, I'm with you. What do you think a role of a U.S. senator is to get people to exercise that right? I mean, think about 120, 130 million people voted in the last presidential election.
Right.
But 108, I think, didn't vote.
Right.
I mean, talk about did not vote. Here in Vermont, you know, you're up against, you know, this is not a presidential election, you know, in terms of what are you doing to get people in Vermont to come out and vote?
To make sure that they feel a part of the process. You know, a lot of my campaign is based on acknowledging people's existence, whether they vote for me or not, whether they voted for Trump, whether they voted for Clinton, whether they voted for Bernie Sanders. it doesn't matter. It's acknowledging people are there, listening to them, seeing them, hearing their problems, and saying, hey, if you want to change things, we can do this. We can do this together. So it's really having people have faith in the system again, and that their vote does matter. You know, I hear a lot of people say, oh, I don't get involved in politics. It doesn't matter. My vote doesn't matter. Your vote absolutely does matter. It's imperative that we all vote. You know, whatever side or issue wins, so be it. But be a part of the democracy.
Now, to learn more about you, your website is?
peacockforsenate.com.
The general election is on Tuesday, November 6th. You heard the word. Please vote. I'm Marty Cohn. Thanks for watching.